Hi, this is Tim Van Wert, the host of the AV Life, and you are watching or listening to us, depending on where you found us today. Just before I lead us into this week's episode, just wanted to take a minute and today is Memorial Day, and I wanted to just extend my gratitude to all those brave men and women that have been out there and to those that have gone before them that have been protecting our rights for freedom and have been, even as crazy as we've all been to each other probably over these last 2 years, 4 years, however you want to look at it. And we will continue to be, I'm sure. Uh, they are the ones that are out there protecting our rights and giving us the freedom to continue just to be able to debate and to have these discussions and arguments, or whatever you want to call them. And we are forever thankful and in their debt for protecting us, and we honor and we thank you and we appreciate everything you do for us. Until then, thank you again.
I'm Spence Graham, Chairman of the Board of the Digital Signage Federation, and you're watching and listening to the AV Life.
Hi, this is Nancy Blanchard from Williams AV, and you are listening to and watching the AV Life.
Hi, my name is Murphy Daly. I'm an AV and IT project manager, author of articles and books, and you're joining us for the AV Life.
Hi, I'm James King, writer for the Higher Ed AV Digital Magazine, which is IT and AV, and you are watching and listening to the AV Life.
And I'm your host, Tim Van Wert at the AV Life Pod, and you are watching and listening to the AV Life. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to the crew. How are we all doing today?
Doing fine.
Good. Yes.
Good.
Oh, good. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Nice weather.
Well, yeah, that is nice weather. Yes, we got a little steamy here in New Jersey,
Yeah,
but
we
then
did
it
too.
tailed off today. We had a good rain. We had rain, thank God, because it was dry. It was getting real dry here in Jersey.
Yeah,
So.
we actually, I don't know if you saw that forest fire. I mean, that was rock throw from my area.
Yikes.
I drive
Yeah, I
by
know
it
that's
all the time.
well, yeah, when you're down that way, I mean, you're basically in a kindling, area, like one little thing.
There was a lot of speculation because the week before that, the apartment complex that I used to live in burnt down. And then we had that huge forest fire that burned. I think it was like 600 and some odd acres that burned. And then while they were fighting that, another house fire broke out, but that was an electrical fire. So a lot of people were like, well, do we have an arson running around? But they all seem not to be related.
All right, well, that's I guess that's good in a way. You don't want that, like, but it's just unfortunate that it's it just seems like there's been a lot more fires lately. I don't know.
I think it's dry, and I mean the thing is, what a lot of people don't realize is fire is natural to the woods. Like it's helps forests grow. Like that's what pine cones use, the heat from the fire to open up and plant new pine trees.
Mhm.
The problem is now we humans are building into the forest,
Mhm.
and we're in the path of these fires. And I remember it was a couple years ago we had a forest fire break out, and people got upset because there were some homes lost, and then it came out that they were illegally built in the Pine Barrens. They went into areas that they were told not to build because that was a fire area, and a fire went right through, and it happened. Took out a couple.
Well, we don't do controlled burns very much anymore too in a lot of these places. You've got so much tinder there.
Yeah.
And when certain groups won't allow you to do a controlled burn to get some of that, it just stacks up. And now all of a sudden you got all sorts of fuel when a spark hits it.
Yeah.
Right.
Spence, we were talking about this the other day at work. So maybe, I know New Jersey, I know California, but does other states have a forest fire service program?
Well, I know that that's a good question because I know at one time we had a lot of fire towers in
Mhm.
West Virginia because usually, obviously, on top of mountaintops to kind of keep an eye on it. There was one just right up above where I live here, but it was torn down 20 years ago probably. But uh, I that's all part of forest management, I would think, and especially when you got some of these, hundreds of thousands of acres. And
Yeah.
I can remember
Yeah.
flying out to California just in the last couple years when we were still allowed to travel and seeing from the aircraft 20, 30,000 feet as you're coming in there, you could see the smoke far out in the
Mhm.
distance there as
Oh
you were
yeah.
coming in there from some of those bad fires that were there. And they were saying that there was just so much fuel laying there because they don't do those controlled burns anymore.
Yeah.
It was
I've
brutal
seen.
last year. I actually, because I'm Northern California,
Yeah.
we couldn't walk outside because the air quality
bad.
was so bad.
So
So
Mm.
you were stuck for the summer. And I'll never forget because it was Labor Day weekend. I had a friend fly in and we went up to Sonoma and Napa to do some wine tasting. And the amount of battalions of the fire workers from all different counties, from
Mhm.
all different states that had come in, because it was like there was one right after the other. All of a sudden they'd hear, well, there's another fire that's just started.
Yeah.
And it's really devastating. I never got
Mhm.
to Muir Woods, which is near me because it
Mhm.
just went up.
Well, we went in to
Uh,
see my daughter and son-in-law. He's a test pilot out at Edwards Air Force Base, and we fly into Burbank to avoid LAX most of the time there. But as we were driving from Burbank up towards Edwards, you could see right there on the long side of the highway there where it had burnt there. And I mean, it was basically it's desert,
Mhm.
but it whatever was there, the small brush and that sort of stuff. I mean, it was blackened ground.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
We still do control burns in at least in our area. Like I live in dead smack of the Pine Barrens, so we're in the woods in the forest here. So we definitely do control burns, and they're definitely helpful. I mean, it's
Mhm.
our firefighters fighting. I mean, California, anywhere, those forest fires are
I,
they're no joke. Because
yeah.
We do
second the
have a
wind
fire season
turns,
here.
yeah,
We
Mhm.
cannot, we cannot, you cannot start a fire until after 5 p.m. and it has to be out by, I think, 6 or 7 a.m. There. And I think the whole reason they do that, we're more rural here, is so that theoretically, your volunteer fire department guys are home from work
Right.
there. But we,
we're all
we have a
Oh
volunteers
long
yeah.
too.
season of that.
Right. Well, that's I was to say I got a bunch of friends, coworkers that are all firemen here in New Jersey. They're all North Jersey people,
Yeah.
but it's like, they don't. I give them a bunch of credit. Like that takes a special
Oh,
character to be able to do that sort of stuff. I don't have that.
no.
Like, one of them is my cousin. He's a new fireman down in Tom's River. So actually, he's South Jersey.
Tom's
But
River Central. Thank you.
Oh, no. That's Ocean County. So that
But hey, I'm Ocean County too. I know where Tom's River is. They're north of me. That's central.
they would probably
Yeah.
beg to differ with that. So,
Oh, they always do, but
So when James was saying, people have to understand that fires are part of the cycle, boy, around here, we absolutely know that. We're like, oh, it's fire season. Who's going to get burned now?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we should have more controlled burns than we do, but mostly people said, no, we want to build a house there. And like, well, it's up to you guys then to trim back um, all of your
Brush.
brush. So actually, it's funny. Today, as I was walking through, I have this really lovely, it's really sweet. It's from my street up across the block, through the block where the park is. And it's two like field stone walls. So these pretty walls, and the trees kind of go over this path. So it's been blowing lately, and like pieces of branches come off on the street, and one of those pieces of a tree a piece of a branch got stuck, and I'm like, that's gonna fall on my head. And I tried to reach it and I couldn't. So I thought, as a good citizen, I'm going to go out there and knock it down with the broom handle. And I did. And I felt very justified in my humanity. Out there, knock it off the broom handle so it didn't spear someone through the heart.
Yeah.
Good call.
So,
Yeah.
Did
that
those
reminds me-
fires get up there into Sonoma and Napa? I was out there years ago, several years ago to we had meetings in Sonoma, but we did go over to Napa, and I think I'd seen that they had some fires that got pretty doggone close to the vineyards.
They did. Well, so one of the vineyards that I visited in Labor Day weekend, it was destroyed. I mean, there's ones up there that are just, if you saw the pictures, you just want to cry because they're gone, they're toast. So
Mhm.
So
just
people
having to rebuild, and that's what it's like up there. Now, there was an article yesterday, they can't get property insurance because of fire. So now it's putting them, at a disservice, because if there's the fires in that, they've got nothing that they can claim.
Hmm. That's rough.
I was gonna say that's that whole realm of insurance and everything is just crazy to begin with. So the fact that
Yeah.
they're even making it harder that's
Yeah.
So
But they did
our-
that for us too, when I first moved here for earthquake insurance. It just, you couldn't afford it. And now you're always getting mail from them saying,
Mhm.
hey, you don't have earthquake insurance, you should add it onto your policy.
I feel like they
that's
do that a
like
lot
flood
here in
insurance here.
I was gonna say Jersey does a lot of flood insurance. That's the big thing. And I feel like they change like every couple of years, like the flood zones change. Like
Yeah.
even though there hasn't been rain in that or flooding in that area for like decades, they all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, by the way, you're this far away from a creek, you're gonna get flooded. So
Well, they do a lot of studies because actually I don't know about Rutgers because I actually think Rutgers is part of it, but I actually think Stockton is as well. I'm not 100% sure there, but I know they do flood studies in our marine area. And I think, like I said, I think Rutgers has one too.
I'm sure they do.
They do tons of studies on the bays and the channels and seeing what's going where, so they can almost map it all out. And I know for a longest time our maps are way out of date. And then of course
Mhm.
Sandy didn't help.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that changed everything,
Yeah.
Well, you had Floyd and then you had Sandy, and like there were buildings in Newark that got their basements flooded during Floyd. Like I was on campus at NGIT during Floyd, and like two of our buildings, like we couldn't have classes because they had to shut the electricity off because the basements had like that much water in them. So
And
yeah.
going with the whole insurance thing there, Nancy, a lot of people are wondering why when Sandy hit New York and New York flooded, they never classify it as a hurricane. Do you know why?
No,
No, was that?
Because when Sandy hit up New York, and they flooded, they classify it as a tropical depression, not a hurricane. And the reason for is if they classify it as a hurricane, it is then considered act of God, and insurance don't cover damages.
Oh,
So they classify it underneath that. So insurance would, I think the insurance companies were in on it because they knew it was something they had to do. So it wasn't like they
Yeah.
tried to pull one on the insurance, but yeah, that's why they classify it the way they did.
wow.
that's again insurance running the world.
Yep.
That's
No,
a,
it's true.
that-
It's very true. Ask how many times have we had an earthquake? It'll be 24 years that I've lived here in October. I have only experienced three. Where, like all of a sudden it feels like your house got hit by a truck. It's that jolt. Or you get the wave one where you're like, woo.
My daughter and son-in-law had just moved to Edwards Air Force Base when he was sent there to be a test pilot, and they weren't there a month, and they had two, and the second one really rocked, and all of a sudden they both ran into one ran into my grandson's room, the other one ran into the granddaughter's room there, and my grandson was there. He told my daughter, he said, "Mom, pick Jesus up. He fell off of the wall." So, I mean, and so what I'm
Gotta give
saying is
Jesus a hand once in a
got,
while.
they've had 3 since
Yeah.
they've been at Edwards.
Wow.
Wow.
Now
It
that's
really does.
Southern California, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, Southern. Okay.
Yeah.
Edwards
it depends
Air
on the
Force
fault.
Base.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was right up. It was 60 miles north of them was the epicenter, I guess, up there towards something called, what is it, China Lake or something like that.
Kind of like, yeah, you know, I had to do an installation in Edwards Air Force Base, and my contact's name was Edison.
Hmm.
I was constantly flipping, like, what? Totally mind bender. He was a nice guy, but.
So
As I
Spence,
say, I'm just thinking of the Lewis Black skit when he talks about like living in California and having earthquakes. It's like, I don't know about you, but the earth done quaketh. It's like, it's like, you know, when the ground moves under your feet, you pack your stuff and you get out. It's like,
Yeah.
Sure.
well, he's an East Coast guy, so you know it's
We don't get them that often over here.
no, not
We've
at
had
all.
one. And the epicenter,
Yeah.
believe it or not, was down in Virginia, but it rocked the building that I was in there to where I got, and it probably lasted 6-7 seconds,
Nancy,
but I was enough. My pen rolled off my desk. I didn't know what was going on. And I leaned down there, and the next thing I know, I was seasick.
Yeah.
yeah, I heard
Mhm.
that.
Nancy, we're in Canada.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up around earthquakes? Or
Ontario.
Yeah, where? I don't know.
Oh, near Toronto, London, Ontario,
Did you have
Kitchener,
earthquakes there?
Washington. No, we didn't, but they are experiencing earthquakes now. So that's why I'm thinking, you know, how we say about climate change and things, there seems to be a lot of natural disasters that weren't in other areas previously.
Yeah,
Mhm.
clearly we've been sinning as a planet, so we need to.
Yeah, we don't have a
repent or something.
tectonic plate that
God.
close to us here.
No.
Yeah, see,
But-
now I grew
Well,
up in Alaska, and so we had earthquakes there
Yeah,
too, and some really big ones. And then I moved to
Mhm.
California, and it's always been West Coast for me. So I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I mean, you
Yeah.
know.
I don't know if you guys saw my post the other day on Twitter, but we have people who freak out with the bombing range and they think their house is shaking.
Oh, I saw that.
Oh.
You're like, come on, guys.
It drives me mad because I mean I was born and raised here, and the bombing range has been here for years. And you have all these people, no offense to Tim, from North Jersey, come down and they think they know it all, and then they start freaking out when the bombs are going off.
We got to practice, right?
The best
Well, I was
is
gonna say unless you've been like around Picatinny or something like that, like up this way, like yeah, you don't have any idea. Like
Okay,
'cause
but
even
after
up there.
the first time, wouldn't you be like, okay, now I know what that is?
yeah. The funny thing though is I was laughing. The bombing range we have here is probably one of the most heavily used. Actually, the Navy SEALs, I believe, actually do training there. Like everybody does training there. And one of the comments I read on Facebook was someone's like, "Oh, they don't drop bombs there." I'm like, "Dude, it's an active bombing range."
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
We had an issue. Luckily, it was at nighttime. They were doing some night practice, and actually, I think it was an F-15 gun locked up, and actually shot up our elementary school.
Ooh.
Wait.
Luckily, like I said, luckily no one was in there.
Wow.
Except for the janitor, and no one was hurt. But yeah, it happened to lock up right over the school and shot up the
Janitor's on the floor saying, it's just a flesh
Wow.
wound. Poor janitor.
'Tis but a scratch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So James is
All right.
saying that he's been around and he knows what's going on in his area. And these newbies are coming in and they don't know what's going on in his area. And that kind of leads into
The PM minute.
PM.
in it.
There you go. Go
Okay.
ahead, Murphy. I was gonna say, like, we've been talking for a while here, and I know you gotta take off for a little bit. So let's make sure we get our PM minute in. So
All right.
go ahead, Murphy. Let's segue, as you have nicely done, into that. Go ahead, take it away.
So one thing about a project is you have all the project team, and then you got kind of the stakeholders, but you got the team. And the team, you couldn't get anywhere without all the people that are going to be working on the team. And there's fresh young blood who are going there and they're going to lift things and they're going to do stuff, right? And maybe they're eager, or maybe they're dumb, or maybe they're both. And then there is the crusty guy. So what I want to say about project management is listen to the voice of experience. That guy might have opinions and he might go on too long, or that woman might have opinions and might go on too long, or might whatever, but that experience is worth a lot. It's worth a lot to have somebody say, yeah, every time that system goes in, you're going to have to worry about X, Y, and Z. You know, the people that say, hey, be careful when you're buying a certain kind of cable, because if you don't put it in the right way, it doesn't work right. So make sure you have that kind of cable, and make sure that you take this into consideration. And these voices of experience are worth a lot, even if they seem like not with the program with the eager beavers. You know, you have to listen to the voice of experience, and it will save you so much time.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, Murphy. I feel like that I don't want to say it's an industry, but I feel like a lot of folks have lost they've failed to see the value in the seasoned veteran, as it were, and the experience that's there. You know,
I owe so much to those seasoned veterans that told me, hey, this is what you need to pay attention to, and look out for this, and all that big bucket of experience that I've learned from. Like, okay, I'm going to make sure I do this. All the things, I owe so much to them. And anyone on a project will be served by giving them a chance to speak. So you have to listen to that voice of experience.
It's funny. It reminds me of that one episode of The Office where Michael invites back like one of the founders of Dunder Mifflin, and like he brings him in because he wants to talk about like the veteran knowledge that he has, and he starts talking and he goes, all right, I think we got enough out of this. All right, come on, let me get you out the door. It's like you were that close to doing the right thing and you just pushed him out the door. So
yeah, that was a good
Michael.
episode. That was what the ageism one, right?
The ageism one, yeah, that was the ageism episode, because it was the whole BlackBerry thing with Ryan. Like he was trying to make was it the BlackBerry or was it PowerPoint, or was it both?
I think
it's the BlackBerry,
but BlackBerry and PowerPoint.
Yeah, good old BlackBerry. Yeah. Never had one. As a side note,
I did.
Nope.
I had a BlackBerry Storm.
Yeah.
Wasn't bad. They missed the mark there.
I feel like they may have been ahead of their time a little bit.
I think they were ahead of what I felt BlackBerry did was they were really good in the corporate world. And I think they go, we're good, and sat back on their heels.
They gave up.
They didn't innovate. And when they tried too late, because that's when the BlackBerry Storm was their first touchscreen one. And they made it feel like when you hit the screen, like you were hitting real buttons, like you kind of press and stuff. But then again, they had no apps for it. There was like, it really missed the market.
So did HP.
Yeah.
I had one of those HP. I can't even remember which one it was, but
the Trio, right?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so proprietary, you know, you couldn't do anything else with it.
Right. Oh yeah. They had their own, actually. I have, HP had a tablet that ran on their own operating system as well.
Yeah.
I think I still have it.
Oh boy.
Continue on for a second.
I like the BlackBerry. I like the BlackBerry because it had the keyboard. Oh, what is this? Oh wow.
I don't even remember what this thing was called.
Hold it in front of your shirt because it's disappearing into the blue.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, it was an HP. It was an HP tablet.
Yeah.
And it ran on their like operating system, but there were no apps for it.
Right.
So now what does it do? It's been collecting dust for like, it's a paperweight now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've not
Archaeological
had to reference.
artifact.
I literally have not had to reference this thing for like 10 years.
Yeah.
It's moved with me. It came to this house 7
I
years
found
ago.
mine in an old box out in the barn here a while back. Like, I got to get rid of that thing. I'm never using that again.
That's just funny that we even brought that up because I was like, wait a minute. It's like I have something like that. Well, yeah, I think at that time, like, yeah, BlackBerry and then HP had theirs, and then it was just like, okay, Android, and then Apple, and then there were it's almost like the Blu-ray HD wars from it's like or like VHS
Adapter
and
die.
Beta. Yeah, and they died. Like they just couldn't get the proper assets to join in to develop, because that's
It's a team effort.
yeah.
Mhm.
They had to
Because-
get the enough people building apps for them, and they're like,
Mhm.
Not for people, no.
Maybe they should have listened to their veteran leadership.
I was just gonna say that.
Sorry, James.
No, you hit it. That's a good one.
Voice of experience.
The voice of experience. Yes, exactly. So, but though, again, when it comes to like that sort of technology, like, yes, you need to listen to veteran leadership, but at the same time, you also do need to have that innovative forward thinking that gets you there.
Mhm.
And, like that was Steve Jobs. Like that was, he had that thinking, with Woz as well. It's like they had that forward thinking that they knew what they needed to do. But, I'm sure they had other people that they listened to as well. Like you don't get to where you are without having that support structure.
I think HP turned out okay.
Yeah.
They found their niche, and that's what
It was
the,
not
Well,
the
they went back
tablety
to their
thing,
niche.
but
They
they're
went
they went
back
back
to
to their
the-
niche. Yeah, they went back to their niche. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they had the veteran knowledge.
Well, and you look at a company like IBM. I mean, my lands, at one time, IBM was everything.
Oh
Mhm.
And then,
Yeah.
they kind of looked the other way for a while and got a little frisky. And next thing you know, PCs came along and they just never got the market share back
Mhm.
there. And I mean, you talk about completely miss an entire generation of technology, and you'll never really catch back up, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, they hung in there when they
Mhm.
had the ThinkPad,
Yeah,
and then they sold that off to Lenovo, and
because
that
they knew that
was-
wasn't what they did best.
Nah, they went back to their business roots, their
right.
the servers and
Right.
their AI. So,
Mhm.
which
Not
I
the
think
same
Well,
as
that was
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Their Cortana, and they tried to come out with other stuff. They're a software company.
What was their original operating system for net? No, what was it that they came out with there? It was one of the prime graphical
mean in-
user interfaces whenever we first started coming out there, and it was they got covered up by Windows 3 and Windows, all that sort
I
of
remember.
stuff.
I remember Windows 3.
NT.
3.1.
Remember that one, James? Windows
3.1.
NT.
Oh,
Yeah.
nothing there.
Internally. So I worked for
Nothing there.
Microsoft in Mississauga, and at the time when Windows NT came out, they were expecting me to present it, and there are the acronyms for NT. I forget what it was, but even internally, we didn't know what it did, didn't understand it, didn't know how to position it.
Mhm.
Wait, I had
Hey, let me tell
a
you, I had such high hopes for Windows ME. Like when that came out, I was like, "Oh, Media Edition!" I'm like,
Vista.
"This is gonna be great." Oh, well, that
so
I thought I had problems with ME when it came out, and then Vista came along and said, "Ha ha ha."
So
Yeah.
I actually have a theory there, but first, but the two things is first off,
Sorry,
I
go
had-
ahead, James.
No, that's all right. I had a teacher in high school who would give us acronyms for those Windows, like Windows NT stood for nothing there. Windows ME stood for multiple errors.
hmm
Windows XP was extra problems. So like a lot of those
It's
things.
like a very inspiring teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I really felt you look at like Windows NT, ME, Vista, they all were bad, but they all were the first edition of new technology. Like they changed file formats, they tried different things, and they were bad because they were new, I feel. And then the versions after that fixed those issues.
Yeah, there
But
just
they almost
wasn't
had to redo it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there just wasn't the
Started.
proper internal support
What
of it.
was it? Netscape. Wasn't that one of the first?
Still a browser.
Yeah,
First
browsers.
browser,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it's like, geez whiz. And then everybody used to fuss about it because they weren't innovating fast enough. And,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
But now here's the problem.
AOL.
Oh, well, AOL, yeah. Well, now here's the problem though, is that, now they weren't innovating fast enough. And now I feel like we're getting patches way too much now. And I think that may just be, and that also may be related to the speed in which security breaches and things like that happen.
Yeah.
But it's like, from a support standpoint though, it just becomes a nightmare. It's like, we got people, for instance, with Zoom, we have folks that are in different departments at Rutgers. They're like, well, why are there so many updates? And it's like, it's hard to manage that. And I'm like, well, it's like, there's constantly new threats that are happening and they're patching the holes, but as fast as they patch the holes, somebody else finds something else. It's like,
And
oh,
if-
well, can't we do these once a month? And it's like, not really.
Yeah, and if you
work
and
that
if you
way.
don't update them on a regular basis, the next thing you know, you'll have girls going wild on there in
Yeah.
the middle of your class.
Or even that is, then you run into the issue like, say, we're hosting a meeting, we're on the latest, old versions can't come in.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
then you run into delaying the meetings and stuff. So.
I think we were talking about that. Was it last week where all of us were trying to get on here and all of a sudden
that's
Zoom
right.
said, wait a minute, we got to update here
Everybody has to
before. I was
update.
like, no, not now.
Well, yeah, and then I warned people last week. I was like, there might be another update, and
Yeah.
it's like, just be ready. Like,
Well,
I-
sure enough,
yeah.
just before I got on this podcast, Tim, Zoom came up and it said, oh, there's an update.
Mhm. Yep. And actually, mine did too. Well, I was on early. I had a call earlier this afternoon, so I handled my update earlier. But yeah,
mine
it's
was
just-
yesterday because I had a class to do.
Mhm. So,
Damn
Friends, I have
programmers.
to step away. So it was
all
fun.
right. Well, enjoy the rest of
Murphy.
your evening, Murphy. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So yeah, I mean, that's just, I guess that's the world we're living with now, is that. So,
We wanted a software world. You got to live by programmers' rules.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
You know,
Cloud.
those scammers are pretty tricky because I'm constantly sending to my internal IT guy about the ones that I'm getting where they make it look like it's the CEO sending you a message.
Mhm.
Personally, they got all the information and things. So that's where Joe at our office, he's like, please don't anybody click on anything. If you're not sure, just email me.
yeah.
Mhm.
Can you imagine the heartburn that those guys are getting on a regular basis? Because, I mean, what about this whole pipeline thing? Okay. You
Oh,
talk, I mean, these folks higher up in that IT department have got to be on pins and needles all the time, because I think somebody told me, this is years ago when I was at WVU still, that, I mean, the number of daily attacks
Mhm.
or attempted attacks was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it
it's
can
like-
only be worse now, I'm sure.
Mhm. Well, one of the last conferences I was actually at was CCUMC back in October of 2019. So it's just this is how far back we're going now with everything. And we did a tour around the campus, and one of the stops was their cybersecurity lab. And they have a map, and they showed you just for what they are seeing. And they're a small college in Poughkeepsie, New York, and they're seeing thousands of attacks, just attack after attack after attack. And like some of them that they put like honeypots out there, and they're encouraging those to happen, but some of them it's just constantly being bombarded. And that's a small college. So imagine like some of the federal government like is what they're going under, or like a or like a pipeline.
I just sent you guys in the chat there's a live map. It's digitalattackmap.com that actually shows all alive attacks right now.
No way.
Yep.
Mm.
Wow.
And you can actually play, show the whole history from 2015 through now, different attacks.
Wow.
Yep.
I was saying, it's funny. One of our, and I think more universities are realizing that they need to have like top-notch staff in on it. And I know one of the universities by me, they're looking for incident management analysts, I think was the job. I was actually looking for it right now. So it's Montclair State University.
my concern there is I know a little bit about security. I would not call myself a security expert. I know enough to just be troublesome, but
Mhm.
to me, like in nowadays, any corporate higher ed, any security officer, you're gonna lose seat, because like everyone says, it's not if you get hacked, it's when you get hacked.
Yep.
And then you're the fall guy when you do get hacked.
Yeah.
Or
I
if you
would
clamp things down so tight, people start grouching because things are too slow. And
Yep.
you're right. It's no win.
Oh.
Hey, James, what's this bubble over Brazil right now?
I don't know. I was trying to figure that one out.
It's weird. Like it's showing that like it's at digitalattackmap.com. They're getting a plug on the show. There's this just orangey yellow bubble right over Brazil right now. Let me click on it.
It looks like they're getting a lot of denial of service attacks.
Oh, maybe somebody's focused on them right now.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, it's a little crazy looking at the whole map and just seeing everything that's happening. Huh.
But yeah, it's crazy.
That's wild. Yeah. It's
And this is
and
it.
again,
Are
that's
the
how
attacks coming
Go ahead,
from
Dan.
external, like, certain country into
there's
the
taxes
US
everywhere.
or
They're coming from
or is it-
everywhere.
domestic?
I think you get a little of everything. You'll get this domestic, you'll get international. I mean, even that pipeline, they linked it back, I think, to a Russian group.
Mhm.
I don't think they were backed by the Russian government, but I think they're a Russian group.
Yeah, and I don't think, and they weren't out for anything. Like
No.
they just wanted the money, purely wanted the money. That's all they wanted. Like,
I don't even think they knew what they hit when they did it. I think it was one of those where they just mass out the links and somebody clicked and
Mhm.
things weren't done right and it happened. And like I said, I don't think they knew what they hit.
Mhm. That's crazy. Well, this just leads us right back into a security conversation. It's the hot item. It's going to be the hot item for a very long time, even more so than our AV and IT discussion. Which we should be it should be done with. But anyway, security is always, because it's always changing, just like we talked about. Like there's as one door closes, another crack in a window pops open someplace else, and you have to keep addressing and keep moving. You can't be stagnant in security.
You always got to be monitoring. Like I posted in this Slack group that I have, and I don't know if you saw it, Tim, or not, but it was a year ago, maybe a little longer than that. I was actually having a issue with a control system. It was just acting up. I actually don't even recall what the problem was right now.
Mhm.
So I had it in my office on our workbench. So I was monitoring it. I was running logs on it. And unannounced to me, our security team was running an audit. So I actually saw a lot of failed attempts to log into the unit. And when I looked into it, I'm like, why are all these failed attempts? So I started doing digging and I found out where it was coming from. And I looked up and I was like, wait, this is our internal security team. So I emailed the director. I'm like, was this you guys? And he came back and goes, yeah, we were running an internal audit. You're the only one who noticed.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I was lucky enough that I was just running a log at that time. Just
Mm.
or I probably wouldn't even notice either. I mean, as he said, no one, they didn't get access. They were denied. They were all denied attempts, but he was like, he's like, you saw it. Good thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's just, I feel like it's, you find what was that in? Oh, it was Waterboy. And I'm gonna make a really weird connection here. It's like in the one scene where the kicker was about to kick the ball and he's like looking for the guy that kicked the ball to for the onside kick. He's like, who's gonna be my guy?
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's what these hackers are looking for. They're just, I mean, they're just casting out, hoping, but there's that one person that's like, who's it gonna be? And it's like that's like, oh, there's my guy,
Yeah.
so. He used other language in the movie, but I can't. I'm not gonna say that.
Well,
So
the pipeline deal, didn't that cost that company something millions of dollars?
millions. Well, yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
They paid the
they
ransom.
paid it. They paid the
They
ransom.
paid the ransom.
Mm-hmm.
But the sad thing was, pardon me, Sam, they paid the ransom, but the encryption key was taking so long, they actually recover quicker from their backup. Then, so they
Jeez.
paid for the ransom to get the key, but that was taking so long to decrypt everything, they recovered from their backup anyway. Even though their backup
$5
was-
million.
They
Yep.
catch those people. They ought to have to spend 3 days in the electric chair.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, this goes back to sometimes old technology is your best friend, because we all know in IT, you got to have backups, but more and more backups nowadays are digital. They're cloud storage backups, your AWS and all that stuff. Problem is when you get these ransomware, they encrypt those. So now your backup is gone too.
Mm-hmm.
Companies that still use tape backups, that's not getting encrypted unless you overwrite the night during the whole time. But once you back up to your tape and you pull your tapes out and you throw them in an offsite location, they're not getting encrypted.
Yeah, that's true. Well, plus if you're physically taking them out and moving them to offline, they're untouched at that point. There is something to be, like you said, there's something to be about like the old way of doing things. That was, that's what my dad
Brings
used
back
to do that.
memories.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I worked at a bank here in town. It was called Farmers and Merchants Bank, and I was, it was by the time I had graduated, I guess, and it was before I got my other job there. But I was on the night shift, and you had to process everything that the bank had done that day, from CDs to the checking accounts, the savings accounts to the loans, everything. And then you had what we called the offsite backups. And you're right, James, we ran them out on these big, huge vacuum tape drives. They're on there. And we took about, I don't know, there was probably at least 8 or 10 of these that you carried in the case, and we took it down to the Hotel Morgan. That was our offsite backup spot, and they held them under the counter for us there in case we had a problem there. And the get around was that if we did have a problem, that we would take those tapes up to PNC Bank in Pittsburgh, and we could run the bank from there.
And
And that was, we're talking that would have been 1981 and 82.
And besides also having the backup like that and offsite, another thing is you really have to practice recovering. I mean,
Whoever does that.
Actually, I know we do.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time they do it, because I'm no longer really talking with those. I'm not in that loop with the data backup centers, but I I do know a couple years ago, a couple of our guys went to a off-site location and spun up our college just so they could.
That's
And
amazing.
That's awesome.
yeah, just they had to show that they could actually do it. And
Yeah.
you got to practice, you got to do it, and you got to find out what works and what doesn't work.
Mhm. Well, it's funny, actually. That's interesting you bring that up, because I haven't even, again, I had something else I haven't thought of in years. One of my previous employment stints was facility management for a Fortune 500 company, and I was part of, well, pre 9/11, I was facilities. Post 9/11, I was part of business continuance, was the next, that because they created that group, because after that it became super important to make sure that the business kept running no matter what.
Yeah.
And part of what they did, they ran drills on what would happen. And so that was what they did. Now, I'm not involved. I haven't been involved with them in 16 years now, but that's like that even 16 years ago was something that and they also had a major data center that they had to make sure was all covered and everything as well. So it's not just, running a bank, it's running a company, like a full
Well, I know that
global company.
when I was at WVU and we had the digital signage network in there from the very beginning, we had what we called a failover system, that if, because of the emergency alert that was lurking in the background of every digital sign we had out there on the campuses, if one part of the campus went down, within 3 minutes, what we called failed over to the other campus. It was a separate backbone. And we were up and running within 3 minutes, and we would practice that periodically. The problem was that when you did fail over, failing back was a pain in the neck, because it would take hours to fail back from the other, coming the other direction. Then you had to come back to your servers and that. But I mean, that IT management is intense.
We have the same thing at Rutgers, like, because our 3 campuses are all connected, Newark, Camden, and New Brunswick, and we could go any way that we need to. If we need to go in a circle, if we need to go L or whatever we need to do, we could do it. But we and we have off, I think there's offsite too, but I don't know that, again, outside of my jurisdiction.
We do, I know we still do generator tests. In fact, we just did one not too long ago where they actually basically kick over to the generator and make sure that all fires up correctly and stuff. They run that like monthly, I almost think. They test that. But like we were talking about, you gotta practice what you preach. Reminds me of a funny story. My mom used to be a grade school teacher, and she was telling me a story of, we all know in grade school they do fire alarms, fire drills. So in the practices, you line up the kids, you all walk out, everyone does it, everyone's used to it, that's how you do it. Teachers and students never know when it's a fire drill, but they keep doing the same things over and over. Administration always knows when it's a fire drill because they schedule them. Well, one time there was an actual fire and the teacher pulled the fire alarm. All the students and teachers did what they practiced. Administration, because it wasn't a fire drill, never practiced, ran around like chickens with their heads cut off, not knowing what to do.
Oh boy.
Admins have to practice every once in a while too.
Yep.
Yeah. Everybody needs their practice. So, actually it's, I'm trying to think of how I'm going to tie this in, but I think part of us being in this COVID world that we are in, as we are now starting to come out of, I think it's also taught us how we can continue without having our regular place of work to go to. And now I think, and actually even our president has assigned a task force to develop plans that how can we learn from what we've done and how does it now benefit the university going forward. So actually taking everything now and seeing what we could do with it. Bringing value to the students, work life, as far as the employees are concerned, things like that. And starting to return things back to normal. And as part of that return, and I know it's not happening for us this fiscal year as far as conferences are concerned, but getting back to our trainings and things like that as well. So for the month of June, we're going to be, the theme of the month of June for higheredav.com is the return of conferences and events or trade shows or whatever it may be. Because here in New Jersey, we're starting to open up tomorrow, which is Friday, as we are recording here, things start opening up again. We get back to full capacity at bars and restaurants, like people can stand at bars, which hasn't been able to be done in a year and a half. And then next week, another slew of openings is happening. So, there's no capacity limits on like concert venues and things like that. So concerts are coming back in full force here in New Jersey. So, we're going to really, it's like in June, we'll dive back into conferences. I think, we've got a lot that's coming up, and I think that's going to put us back in that piece of normality. I know I'm a little bit excited. I know I'm a little bit excited for that. So
I'm excited, but I actually found this weird. I was talking to a coworker today about this, because I keep hearing people say this, that they say it's going to feel weird, like ditching the mask and the social distancing. And I was thinking, it was like, I'm 37. I've spent 36 years of my life of what we consider norm, no social distancing, no mask. We spent a little over a year, and
now you don't know how to act.
Going back. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, but it is.
Yeah, you would think, like, ratio wise, that doesn't make sense. It's like, but I think just the reality of the situation, and I apologize to people that may think that this is some government conspiracy, but it's there is a reality to this. It changed a lot of us, and like looking at, as excited as I am to get back to a concert of live event and being among a bunch of people, it still kind of freaks me out a little bit that, like,
I think what it's done is it's made you aware. So now, whereas before we were carefree, now we're more careful.
Worry warts.
Yeah. I like the term,
but just that we've now seen what it can actually do, a pandemic. And so I don't think we're going to go back to how we were, like you said, carefree, going to a bar and doing this and that. It's sort of like how you're going to sort of look over your shoulder, look back.
You brought up a good point there, Nancy. Like, because I was talking to, I think, my wife the other day, is we talk about practice what you preach. I feel we had at least two major issues in the United States, and I feel the government has failed at both of them. 9/11, our whole communication system up in New York failed, and the emergency notification system never went off, and no one knew why. And then we had this COVID pandemic, and our government, I feel, did a very poor job handling it. So they need to practice more.
Yeah, maybe they need to practice emergency response a little bit more.
But Nancy brought it up. I just today, I stopped by the local convenience store to pick up get some gas and this sort of stuff, and I ran inside to get a bottle of pop, and there was a guy with no mask, and I just almost instinctively looked, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're I had my mask on, but they're starting to relieve some of the things here. We're supposed to be June 20th is our big day. That's the West Virginia's birthday. So that the governor has made June 20th the official day. But you're going to wince every once in a while when you sit there and think, oh gosh, I guess I don't have to be acting this way now.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, I'm seeing, my wife and I are going to see Jim Gaffigan in September in the city. I know I've brought this up before, but and that's New York City for those who, I know some people call their city the city, but the city is New York City. And the following week there was another concert that we were talking about going to, and we were just kind of like, it's like, I
Two
don't know,
concerts in a row.
two live events in a row, like 2 weeks in a row. It's like, I don't know.
So we didn't think about doing that at all
well,
a year and a half
actually,
ago.
right. Oh yeah, not even like we went to 2 nights in a row, went into New York City for concerts. Like, and then and a year before that, we did 3 days in a row for like the same band. Like we were like kind of like groupies for 3 days. We like followed the band because they were out on Long Island one day and they were in New Jersey the next day, and then they were in the city the next. So we like bounced around with them for 3 days, and it was like, now I'm like, I think about that, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. So
I'd
and
like
they were
to
all
feel like I
indoor.
was
They were
shot out of
all
a cannon.
yeah. It's like that, and they were all indoors. That's the other thing. It's like none of them were outside because it was like November. So,
Well, maybe we
but
can get back to trade shows at some point.
trade shows would be a great start, I think. I'm looking forward to like a local one. You know, it doesn't need to be like, I feel like I gotta have the kiddie pool first. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
you know, I don't need to dive into the deep end like with info.
Put your toe in.
Yeah, let me go here to the kiddie pool and like let somebody come to New Brunswick, run a show for, you know, for the folks here in New Jersey. And you know, so if there's any vendors, you're going to be able to do it after tomorrow. So anytime over the summer, if any manufacturers want to come to New Jersey, come to New Jersey, run a local show. I will go. I will be there. It's like,
How about I come, Tim, just to your university?
that's perfect,
Come visit
Nancy.
you.
Yeah. Come and see us. You know, I'll invite James up. James could come up from Stockton, you know. We'll bring some folks in. Yeah. I
Sounds
would
like a
thoroughly
plan.
enjoy that. Yeah. So yeah, so we'll dive as we're talking about pools.
Yeah, we'll wade. How about we'll wade?
Wade. Yeah, we'll bring ourselves in, and you know, when you get to mid waist, you usually need to wait if it's too cold anyhow. So we'll wade in slowly and never mind. I'm not
See
even
if we
gonna go
drown.
there. See what? Let's hope not.
You went dark there, Spence.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what we come up with in June, and we'll see where we all go. As you're listening to this, it's May 31st, and the new edition of higheredav.com comes out tomorrow on Tuesday. So take a look out for that. And then I believe coming in September, there may be some new things coming from the higheredav.com site as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to say anymore. I did get a little bit of a teaser from Joe when I met with him last. But that's all I am going to say, is that we're constantly developing, and we're constantly improving. So keep an eye out for those changes as we come out. So exciting times ahead of us. So yeah, I think that about does it for us tonight. Thank you to the crew. I'll let you all give your little plug on where people can find you, since it's only the 4 of us now. I will say real quick, Murphy has multiple books.
Yeah, she does. So does Joe.
And so see, I wasn't going to talk about him.
Man, we
He
almost
hasn't been
had
on
a
in a
show,
couple
no
weeks.
book.
We all
Yeah,
need to write a book together and be a bestseller.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. The stories of the AV life.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
it'll be a collection of short stories. So that way you could start and just kind of pick up and go.
Yeah.
I think we could do that. So,
Yeah.
and then we'll leave it up on like AV Swag or something like that.
Right.
Maybe they could host it for us and not go through Amazon.
Yeah.
So,
And Joe has to give us all a cut.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, this is all for us. He gets no cut on this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Murphy has books written by Murphy. So if you're looking for her, in that respect, Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah. Nancy Blanchard. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn at Nancy Blanchard. Through Williams AV, my email address is nancyb@williamsav.com.
All right. I'm just gonna move over to James.
James here. You can get me on Twitter at AV_James King. LinkedIn. You can catch me on this show as well as Ask the Programmer that comes out weekly on Fridays, and also over at Higher Ed AV where I write IT and AV column.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Spence Graham.
Well, I can be found on Twitter at WVUSWG, and on LinkedIn as Spencer Graham. So we look forward to seeing you, and also at the Digital Signage Federation.
Well, and I just want to take a quick moment. I know I told you guys this before before we started, but I want to thank you all for being part of the show, and I really appreciate having all your support here. This has been a wild. Oh, geez, where are we at? 6 months now? No, 8 months. Because we're in May, September. Yeah, it's been like 8 months now. So yeah, it's been a wild time, and I really appreciate all your help. So I want to say that in front of the digital world here, and so thank you for all you've done for me as part of the show, and your input and the fun times that we've all had together. So this is where we will say goodbye for today, and we will see you next time, and until our next adventure.